All right, you guys. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce to you a very, very special guest today. Really, we're all lucky because we get to hang out with this amazing human. Brandon Turner, host of the Bigger Pockets podcast, founder of Open Door Capital, teacher of real estate investing, author of some of the best books I read, and host of some of the best dinners I've been at. I'm lucky to know him, spend quality time with him because he is one of the most creative genius minds I have ever come across. Everything that he says, I want to be writing down. I follow him around with a little notebook. No kidding. I have my notebook. And so, ladies and gents, this is the Bigger Pockets Show. I'm sorry. I always wanted to say that. Well,
I'm hiring you to write my introductions from now on. Forget.
Yes.
You're going to write all the Bigger Pockets podcast introductions.
Oh my God, I'm in. But welcome to Real Estate at Work. We are so happy to have you, Brandon. And we're just excited to unpack all of this stuff, like lots of stuff.
Well, sweet. Well, thanks for having me. This is gonna be fun. I always like chatting with you, and that was overly kind of an introduction. So you lie a lot, but that's okay. You get to do that. It's good.
Hey, you deserve it.
Well, thank you. Well, cool.
I'm not good at making up stories, so everything I said is absolutely 100% true.
We have had some of the best dinners of my entire life together, so this is true.
This is true.
Aside of a volcano, you don't get to do that very often. So
no. And thank you for that opportunity. It's amazing.
Thank you.
So Brandon, you don't know this, but I had a little powwow with some of your team members, Mike and Micah. And I just needed to get some good intel on you because this couldn't be like every other interview you do.
Okay.
So I want to start off today by asking you about your time at Coldstone Creamery.
Everything I learned in life, I learned from Coldstone Creamery. Yeah. I sung for tips. Yes. And I would make like $30 or $40 a night in tips, which was huge money.
Whoa.
And it was great money. I put gas in my tank. And that was a great job. Actually, true story. I got that job because I needed a job. I was like 19, I think, at the time. And I was like, I need a job. So I go to the interview, and it's a group interview. There's like 20 people in the group. And what they say is, okay, we want everybody to, stand in the big circle. And one at a time, we want you to step in the middle of the circle and do some kind of action. Just something like, or something like that. And so everyone goes around, and everyone's like, and like, woo, right? So I step in the circle, and then purposely, but didn't look purposely, trip and fall and just go rolling, just like I was gonna do something like, yeah, and I just trip and fall and roll, and then get up awkwardly and brush myself off, and then go back to my spot. And out of the 20 people, I was the one that got the job. Again, that's what they were looking for. They were looking for somebody like with energy and maybe like humor. So it was good. That's how I got it. I fell down and I got a job.
That's amazing. And for those of you that don't know, Brandon is 6 feet and 5 inches tall. So just imagine that.
And a half. Let's not.
And a half.
6'5.5". It matters when you're fighting a 6'5" guy. So it matters.
That's right. I'm all about the half because I'm 5'3.5".
There you go.
And that's important because
it is.
Who wants
I have a feeling like I'm getting old, so now I'm gonna start shrinking pretty soon. I'll be like 6'5" and then 6'4.5", and I'm not looking forward to that.
No.
Anyway, yeah, Coldstone. I gained 40 pounds that year as well. So I gained 40 pounds because I got unlimited ice cream, and I took advantage of that. It was great.
Oh my God. So, question on that. Do you still remember the jingle, and will you sing it for us?
There were so many jingles. Like, you had to sing every time I got chips, but tips. My favorite one was, I don't know if it was my favorite one. I had two favorites. One was, it was just, thank you for your dollar. Listen to us holler. Na, 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 na. Thank you. And the other one, you remember Stomp? Do you remember Stomp was like a Broadway show where like they come out with like brooms? So I instituted like, let's do Stomp with all of our scoops. We had like 15 people and serving ice cream. It was a big store. And like one person would start like clicking and the other person would like, and it was like, there was like 8 drummers, and for whatever reason, there was like 8 of us that were drummers. And so it was amazing. Like we were cool.
I love that.
And it's all been downhill from there.
I don't know what you're talking about. I think you're pretty darn cool.
Well, thanks. I think you are pretty darn cool too. So.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so why real estate and how real estate?
Why real estate? So when I was a kid, my dad is awesome. I love my dad, but my dad worked like every like day, like 6 days a week, 7 days a week sometimes, to like so we could have a life. We were very blue collar. He was a meat cutter, so he'd work all the time, and like I'd barely see him. And he did his best that he could do. And I remember thinking as a kid, like, man, when I have kids someday, like, how do I not do that? And then that was kind of like always in my mind of like, how can I be there more often? And again, my dad would like try, like he'd come to like, if he had to go to work late, and then he would, in the morning, he would take us out to breakfast, and like he tried, but it was just so hard. And I didn't want to be that way. So then I was headed to law school. Actually, I was applying for all these law schools after my college graduation. And I remember just thinking like, oh, like, I guess I'll be a lawyer, which is not a great way to make decisions in life. I guess I'll do this, like terrible. So I'm like, I guess I'll be a lawyer. So I applied all these law schools. And then I read John Grisham's book, The Firm. You ever read The Firm? It's like
yes.
Book, right? Yeah. It's all about like how much lawyers, like everything John Grisham writes is like how much lawyers suck and how much it sucks being a lawyer. And how they, and like, I mean, besides getting shot by the mob and all that stuff, like it's just like a miserable life of working like 80, 90 hours a week for years until maybe you make partner. And then by that time you're like old and fat and divorced 4 times and, have a cocaine addiction. And so like, that's, and I was like, that it had this vision. That's what the rest of my life was going to look like. And at the same time, I bought a house just to live in right after Coldstone, because this was 2007, right? So if you had a pulse, they gave you a mortgage. So I bought this cheap little like $80,000 house, and I lived in it, rented out all the bedrooms just to live for free, kind of house hacking before house hacking was a thing. And then I sold it and I made 20 grand. And I was like, that's almost as much as I'd make my first year as an attorney. Like, why don't I just flip houses? And so that's what started, was the idea, I'm going to flip houses. So I started watching flipping TV shows, and then 2008 hit, and it all changed. So I went from flipping to rentals at that point.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And so I know you are from Gig Harbor, right?
Grays Harbor. Not as cool. It's very different than Gig Harbor. They're like an hour apart. Yeah. Gig Harbor, they get a lot of cool gigs, and Grays Harbor, it's just gray, and it's rough. It's rough. How many of y'all know Grays Harbor? Yeah. Scott, very. Yeah, I'm actually from Minnesota though, so I'll claim Minnesota as my home turf. But my wife is from Grays Harbor, so I moved there. That's where all that real estate stuff took place. I moved there at 19 and never looked back. Hey, somebody said I'm driving through Grays Harbor right now. That's funny.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Say hi to my in-laws.
So how did you first get involved with BP, with Bigger Pockets?
Yeah, good question. I found Bigger Pockets because when I told my dad, I said, I'm not going to go to law school. And it was like a blow to any parent, right? Like their kid was going to be a lawyer. And now it's like, I'm not going to go to law school. I'm going to invest in real estate. I'm going to flip houses and buy rental properties. Yeah. And my dad said like, well, that's, you're broke. You have no money. You got a bunch of student loan debt. What are you going to do if tenants don't pay rent? You're going to like not be able to pay the mortgage, and then you're going to lose everything and end up living under a bridge, is essentially what he said. Yeah. I was like, oh, you're right. And so I went on Google or Dogpile or whatever the search engine was at the time, and I typed in what to do when tenants don't pay rent. And I found this article called What to Do When Tenants Don't Pay Rent. And it was on this little forum. It wasn't even a blog yet or a podcast or anything. A little forum called Bigger Pockets. And it was just a real estate forum. And I was like, there's this like big, long response to what to do when tenants don't pay rent. And I remember printing the article out. I still have it somewhere in a box because it was like, it changed my life. Because it wasn't so much the answer to that changed my life. It was the fact that there were answers to that changed my life, right? Like the fact that people have already figured all these like naysayer comments out and how to get by them. I was like, oh, maybe I can do it. And it changed my mindset right then to like, I can do this. So that's how I found Bigger Pockets. Was I found an article, and I remember highlighting and circling, and like, I mean, it was like my like thing. And from there, I just started reading real estate books. And over time, you can go back, people can go back and look at my old Bigger Pockets comments. Like I was just an active member. Like I'm in the forums and I'm like, hey, I'm trying to put together this apartment complex that somebody offered me. I don't know what to do here. And what would you do? And what is a lease option? I'm just like a newbie, right? Anyway, so over the next 5, 6, 7 years, by the time from like 20 to 27, bought a bunch of real estate, had about 30, 35 units, quit my job and, retired because you can live on about $3 or $4 a month pretty well in Grays Harbor. And so I kind of retired and sat around going, well, I'm just going to watch TV now for a while because that was all I had thought of. And then that lasted about a minute and I got bored out of my mind. So I was like, well, I'm going to see if I can write or something. Maybe I can write a blog or something. So that's how I got connected with Josh. I started writing for Bigger Pockets. And that led from one thing to another, led to, hey, we should start a podcast. And then that led to where we are today.
Wow. Can you guys imagine if Brandon had become an attorney? And
I would have been a terrible attorney. I don't know. I would have been representing only like bad guys just because that would be the funner, like the more fun strategy. And I'd be like, how many bad guys can I get off here? This is my goal. Yeah.
But like how many people's lives you have changed by all of your writings and your teachings on Bigger Pockets. When I first got into real estate, same deal. I was like, okay, I have a question. And there wasn't a Facebook group. There was like one meetup and like 20 people attended that in Seattle, which was still one of the hottest markets. But everybody spoke about Bigger Pockets. Everyone said, hey, that's the best place to find contractors even. Go ask your questions, find your tribe. So it all started on Bigger Pockets for me. And I'm sure a lot of you can say the same. Some of the best books that I read, I got from Bigger Pockets. It was like some of Brandon's books. And so just thank you for choosing the path that you did because you just changed so many people's lives.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
You could have destroyed many more lives.
Many more lives as a
Probably could have destroyed a lot of lives. It would have been fun. Yeah. Maybe I'll go. My parents, up until like, I don't know, a couple years ago, my parents would still say, well, you can still go back to law school. And I think it's when I bought my house in Hawaii that like overlooks the ocean and like, like the pool and all that. I think they finally were like, oh, he's doing okay. Like, I think it was about that. And then they stopped saying I could go back to law school.
Exactly right. So Brandon, if you were to like look back at, some of your key points, turning points in your career, what were those?
Good question. Turning points in my career. A couple of things stand out to me. One, the very first flip I ever tried to do. I did everything myself, and my wife and I did all the work ourselves, spent 8 months working on it. We bought it in 2007, market crashed, 2008. We tried to sell it. We can't sell it because the market's just tanking. No one's buying. No one's giving mortgages. It's just a mess, right? So here I'm screwed. Like my dad was right. I'm going to be homeless. I'm going to lose everything. And I remember thinking like that there's gotta be a way through this. I've got to be able to figure this out. So I remember thinking, well, if I just rented it out for a while, it's to give me some breathing room. I can pay the mortgage. So I did that for a little while, but then the hard money loan was coming due. I had a 10% hard money loan on it. The hard money lender I used was 10 points and 10% interest. So I paid 10 points, which sounds like a lot, which it is a lot, but we're talking like $80,000 loans here. So it's like $8,000 fees. So it's comparable in terms of like to like Seattle, if you're going to pay 2 points on $1 million property, right? Similar. Maybe not quite similar, but it was a lot. But yeah, it was a lot. But yeah, back then hard money wasn't very common either. There was very few people doing it. So anyway, so I end up actually begging my dad saying, I'm like, I got this property. It's great. It's rented. I'm figuring this thing out, but I can't get a mortgage because I don't have a job. At the time, I'd quit my job and I was trying to figure things out. And I was like, I just need you to co-sign on the loan or like be on the loan. Like we'll form a company and we'll put you on it. And so I can use your income from his meat cutter job to qualify. And it worked. He's like, okay. So he let me do it. He even let me use his line of credit to finish up. Like he had a home equity line of credit in his house. He even let me use that to finish the repairs on it. And so, I mean, I owe my parents everything in there. And so they joined with me on that one and we refinanced it. And what I discovered then, the reason I said this is pivotal is that I discovered kind of accidentally the burst strategy, right? The buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. I used hard money to buy it and fix it up. I used kind of a combination of things. So I had no money down because I had no money. And then I refinanced it and got all my money back, including my, the money we used for repairs. And then I had a long-term rental that cash flowed for me. And then I went and did it again. Like I bought it, and then I started burring because and so that's where the whole burst strategy in my head came from. Like, I mean, I didn't label it then, and people had been doing it many years before me, but that's when it started for me and when I discovered how powerful that could be in building a portfolio. So that was a huge turning point for me, I would say. And then I'll give you one more. So that was like the first iteration. Second turning point was I I bought a 24 unit apartment complex from somebody from my church, of all places. And it's just the lesson learned here is like, tell everyone you know about real estate. Like I literally told this old couple I was talking with at church, I said, yeah, someday I want to buy an apartment complex because I just read Ken McElroy's book, The ABCs of Real Estate Investing. And they looked at each other, looked at me and said, well, we have an apartment we want to sell. And I had no idea. So anyway, they sold me this apartment for no money down, basically. Did kind of a creative combination of things to get it. And I did all my own work on it, fixed everything. And then the toilet incident happened, which I've told on the podcast before. But the short version of it is I had some guys that rented one of the units that were friends of mine, college guys, and they got sick. And then the toilet stopped working and they kept using the toilet until it couldn't be used anymore, until it was so full. And then I had to fix that problem. And so I had to unbolt the toilet from the floor, dump it into it was the worst thing of my entire life. And then I got dreadfully sick because I'm sitting there covered in them. So that was the other turning point in my life, because I said, never again. I'm not going to do the work anymore. And I shifted in that moment from a self-employed person to a business owner, to use Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant, or to use like E-Myth, Michael Gerber. I shifted from a technician to an entrepreneur at that moment. Right. And then the third pivotal moment happened when I went to Joe Fairless's best ever conference 3 years ago in Denver. And I decided then and there that I was coasting and I wasn't happy because I knew I could do a lot more. And so that's when I decided to get into larger deals. And then I created this vivid vision, and I decided that I wanted to buy mobile home parks, and all that came from that event. And I walked out, and I had a goal to buy 1,000 units in 3 years, and we just closed. I think we close next week, and I'll hit over 2,000 in under 2 years. So we totally blew by my goal, and it's been a wild ride. So those are kind of the three phases of my career, I guess you could say.
There's so much to unpack there. But first I want to say that Brandon hosts the Maui Mastermind that I've been a part of for the last couple of years. And it's been really life-changing. Every time we go out there and we meet everybody and we talk about our goals and our vision, like it's just, you come back super refreshed with, why can't I take my own career to the next level? So speaking of that, you brought up the vivid vision, and Brandon makes us write out our vivid vision. Can you tell the audience a little bit about that maybe they can go back today and write out their vivid vision?
Sure. Yeah. So the vivid vision is a book by Cameron Herold that just talks about having a very clear picture of where you're headed in your business, not just like a mission statement or a number, but like painting it, not literally, but like somehow like, so what mine is, it's a newspaper article. In fact, I'll show you all right here. Let me just change my camera to, let's figure out what camera to go to. Let's go this one right there. I'm going to change my bad camera so I can turn the thing around. On my wall over there, that is the vivid vision. So that is a giant newspaper article written 3 years in the future. And it starts with the $50 million surfers, how a small team of adventure seekers built a real estate empire, helped millions achieve financial independence, and kept their humanity intact. And then it just starts like December 31st, 2021, Maui, Hawaii. So it was written like in the future, kind of like this sense, like somebody wrote it years from now. Let's go back to camera. There we go. Pretty camera. And anyway, and it talked about how I have 1,000 units. I had these team members. We give back. We do we do masterminds here in Maui. It had a bunch of stuff in there, like how we work, like what we believe in the company, all this stuff. It's long.
Yeah.
And then all I had to do was kind of like, okay, well, that's where we're headed. And what was cool is like when you do that, when you put on paper, first of all, a lot of people are like, well, I don't know what to put down. Well, it doesn't really matter. Just like put like what sounds amazing. Like you're not looking for a buried treasure. You're like painting a picture. Paint whatever you think is cool. And then you just back into that. Okay, what would it take to have $50 million of real estate? Which funny, the goal was $50 million in 3 years. Last week, we got $64 million in contract in 1 week. So like we got more under contract in 1 week than we did my entire 3-year vision, which again is another powerful testament to having a clear vision. Is like when you know exactly where you're headed and how you're going to get there, then the world kind of conspires to help you. And I don't mean that in like a foo-foo weird way. I just mean like you know where you're going. So you put in the systems and processes and people, and then it works. It's amazing. Like it's everything that I taught for years and I was learning for years. Like I just put it into practice into a company, and it totally worked. So yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, that's amazing because when I put down my vivid vision on paper, it just makes it seem so much more achievable. And
Yeah.
I see Alex Camacho here, and Alex is part of the mastermind too, and he was actually in my group. And when we discussed the vivid vision, and it was really cool to like hear each other's vision out too, because it's like it just makes everything else so achievable once you put it out in the universe and just write it down yourself and digest it. So I love that. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Most people think real estate investing is so glamorous. You own a bunch of properties, your net worth is high, but really, like, it takes a lot of hard work to get to wherever you are. Like 3 years down and you're still investing, like, kudos to you. 8 years down you're still investing. I'm like, I never thought it was going to be possible, but here I'm at. And so if you come across an investor that has said that he has had or she has had no failures, every deal has been a success, like, just run the other way, because that is not true. Either they don't have enough experience or they haven't done nearly as many deals. So Brandon, what is some of your biggest failures been that led to some of your best successes?
Well, carrying the toilet was a failure. But let's see. I have a few. There's the Hell House. So I bought this house that I call the Hell House because it was $45,000. I found it driving for dollars, and it ended up being an REO that came on the market. But because I knew it was coming, I jumped at it. I was the first one, bought it for 45 grand, and I'm like, how do you can't screw up a $45,000 house? So I fixed it up myself, kind of like half fixed it up, just enough to get it like moving ready. Then I moved into it for a while. Then I kind of turned it to a duplex and had all these like ideas with it, but I never really did like a full remodel. And it had been pieced together over years. It was just a junky, crappy house in a terrible location. And I rented it out for a number of years after I moved out. And every time a tenant moved out, it cost me like $5,000 to fix it. Every time. Like, even if they didn't trash it, it was just like, well, got to fix this now. And over the years, like, it just basically took what I should have been probably a $50,000 to $100,000 rehab in the beginning, and it just spread it out over about 5 years or 7 years owning it. At the end of the day, I sold it and I made some profit on it, but when I back in what I lost over the years, like, I lost money on that deal overall, and it was stressful. And I had, I think, 5 evictions from one property. Like, it was a terrible location. But it taught me a few things. One, that cash flow is not like income minus the mortgage, right? It's not rent minus mortgage. And I didn't know how to run the numbers when I bought that. That was my third property I ever bought. I didn't know how to run the numbers right. I thought I was going to cash flow because it was $45,000, but just because, like, price is irrelevant to cash flow. Price is irrelevant to profit. You got to run your numbers. And then there's a thing I call pure cash flow. There's what I call phantom cash flow and pure cash flow. Phantom cash flow, like a phantom, is something that you think is there, but not really there, like a ghost. So phantom cash flow is like, hey, yeah, the property brings in $1,000 a month and my expenses are $800. I'm going to clear $200 because my mortgage and insurance and taxes are $800. That's phantom cash flow. In reality, there's like the repairs and maintenance and vacancy and CapEx and property management and utilities and all of those things that add up. And some of them only happen once every 5 years. A new water heater is only once every 5 or 6, 7 years. Right. If you divide $1,000 into that, it's like $25 a month. Every single month, you got to know that your water heater is going to come due. So that property, I was killed on CapEx and on repairs and maintenance and on buying properties in bad locations. So I learned all these lessons in that, which got me through a lot. So that was a good one. Another lesson on a larger scale that I think applies to people who are trying to scale. That sounded redundant, but is I used to be like, hey, like, we should partner together and buy a bunch of real estate. Like, let's build a business. And then you partner with someone and you're like, oh, we don't work together very well. And then it's really hard to like back out of it, or it's awkward, or it's uncomfortable. Right. So it's better to be like, what I've learned is like to piece things out. Like, let's do a deal together. Let's like work together once. Let's try this out with employees. Almost everybody in my company came from either an internship or a volunteer or something first. Or like me and Ryan did one deal together first. So everything gets started that way. So I just learned to like slow my roll with committing to bringing people on my team or partnering. So that was another failure point. I've had many bad partnerships. And then last point, this goes to like for newbies, don't ever rent to family and friends. Always ends bad. Every time. Don't rent to family and friends.
That is some great, great advice, especially on the partnerships. A lot of new investors come to me and say, "Hey, we just found this amazing partner. We want to partner with our general contractor. We want to partner with these three other people that I barely know."
Yeah.
And I'm like, let me tell you, investing is already hard. Finding a deal is hard. Like fixing up the deal is hard. Then selling it for the price that you want is hard. And then you throw in the mix of a partnership, that is just pure death. So don't do it. Like just, partner with someone, like have them be your private lender, or, you be someone else's private lender. You go find someone to shadow. Like those are better things to do than just go straight up into a partnership, not knowing nearly enough about the other person. So thank you. That was great advice. And that actually brings me to my next question.
All right.
You are like one of the best delegators I know. I've learned to do that more and more because of just, like learning from you and your model. I know you're a big believer in the who, not how. I've been fortunate enough to meet some of your team members, and I'm really impressed with how amazing these guys are. Everyone, like from Matt and Drew and Mike and Micah, and of course, Brian Murray. Can you tell us a little bit about how you find your team members, how you have formed that team and that partnership to doing like massive things that you're doing right now?
Sure. The reason somebody asked me this the other day, they asked me why like all my team are like integrators. In other words, they just do stuff. And this was my answer. I said, back like if we want to look at like the old Jewish or biblical story of David and Goliath, right? There was David, little kid, Goliath, big giant. And David goes as a little shepherd kid. He goes to the king and he says, "Hey, I can take on this giant and beat him. And if we beat him, then we win the entire contest or army or battle or whatever. But if the giant beats me, then they win." So the king says, "Okay, yeah, go ahead, go fight the giant." When you think about that, you're like, that's absurd. Why would a king put his entire country in the battle at risk of putting a little shepherd kid in? And the reason why is because he wasn't just a little shepherd kid, right? The story, like he talks about David, is he had killed a lion and a bear and protected them against sheep. And in other words, he had a reputation as being like a lion killer. So the way I bring that back in is that every single person on my team and anybody I want to work with in pretty much anything has to be a lion killer. In other words, they have to have proven themselves in battle already before I'm going to risk putting them into my life somehow. So again, like Ryan Murdoch, like he had built a portfolio of 50 or 60, 70 units of his own. Then we partnered together in a deal and he just killed every lion that was sent against him. And Mike, he's my investor relations guy. Like he was in a internship group of 10 different people that were all in charge of they were all trying to find deals for me. And Mike started organizing people and getting them together and organizing it into a sauna and meeting with people and mentoring people. And like, he just rose as like the leader of that group. Yeah. He slayed a bunch of lions. And Walker, same thing. He was in a group of like 10 underwriters because the original idea for Open Door Capital is let's get some interns and then pay them like 10 interns on the sales side and finding deals and 10 on the underwriting. And then whoever finds the deal gets a big piece of that deal. It didn't really work out that way. It was just too many cooks in the kitchen. But Walker and Mike both rose up. Brian had also killed, more lions than you and I will ever see. Right. And everybody has like just been a lion killer. So that's the big thing I learned is like, I don't trust resumes. I don't trust like a lot of anything. Like I trust, do you have experience? Have you done it before? Do you have a cultural fit? Like, are you like awesome on the team? And then most importantly, prove it. Like come in on a small scale, like I was just saying, and see how they are. So that's how I think I built my team to be so awesome. The downside is like I generally only hire real estate investors. So like, and I don't think this is a downside. This is an upside, but it's also something to be aware of is that these people will not be working for me for the next 20 years. Like if any of them are still working in 10 years, I did something wrong, or in 8 years, right? Like I encourage all of them to build their own on the side, like real estate empires, but they all get equity in my own company. Cause like, I want to hire, like that's the down and upside of hiring people is that they are financially free minded, if that makes sense. So I love that. It's something that like, they're not going to be with me forever. And that's okay. Maybe they will because they like me, but I don't know. So I think because of that idea, because I want to support them and I want to give them the best life possible in early retirement, I think that attracts top talent to me as well. Like they don't work for me, I work for them. And I always try to keep that perspective in mind. So I think that helps.
they love working for you. And I love that you call them killers. Like, I want a team of lion killers. That's like the best possible thing to have.
Yeah.
Lions and lion killers. I love it.
Yeah. Like Alex Camacho. Yeah. I only want lion killers too. You should, because Alex Camacho is a lion killer. Like, that's why
Alex is a lion killer.
that's why we love Alex. He's just like, I'm just going to he's like got like a machine gun out there just hunting down lions. Like, the guy's like just an animal. And I mean that in the best way
You're too kind, brother. You're too kind.
Yeah. So anyway, lion killers, go get them.
Lion killers. So, in preparing for this meetup, I went out and asked a bunch of questions, and I asked people to ask me questions. And one of the most prominent questions that we kept getting was, I am brand new to real estate investing. I am a W-2 employee. How do I start investing? What do I do first? Like, absolute first, what do I do? So, Brandon.
Yeah, the sad thing is all the good deals are taken. So you really just can't. Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Peace.
Have a good day. All right. So what's the very first thing to do? I would say, I could think of like 10 things, but let me try to focus this a little bit. So the first thing I think you have to do is to commit to the process. I always say, like, commit to the process. Like, it's not enough to want something. A lot of people want things, right? Michael Jordan once said, some people want it to happen, some wish it would happen, and others make it happen. And so, like, you have to commit to the fact that this is going to be a long process. It's going to be a process. It's going to be a consistent need for action over and over and over, not like a one-time thing. And so once you recognize that and commit to it, that I am in it to win it for good, like I'm here, then I would get a broad education. And what I mean by that is, like, don't just be like, I'm going to flip houses, because in the beginning, you don't even know if that's right for you. So get a broad education. Listen, podcasts are one of the best ways to do that. I wrote a book called How to Invest in Real Estate for that very reason, is like give people like a broad overview of the entire world of real estate. And then pay attention to what fires you up, because something will. Like, for me in the beginning, it was flipping houses. I was like, that sounds cool. Then later it moved into like rentals, and then Burr, and then so I always tell people, like, feel that fire in you. For some reason, some people love stock investing, or they love Bitcoin. Great. If that's the fire in you, go all in on that. But for me, I love mobile home parks right now, and I'm getting in. I have a few other, irons in the fire, but like, follow the fire would be my advice. So get a broad education and follow it. Listen to podcasts, read general books until you find something, and then focus very particularly on what I call the crystal clear criteria. It's 5 criteria points that if you were just like, you knew this way you were going, this is exactly what you wanted, you would find those deals, you'd find the people, you'd surround yourself with the right people, because you are so clear on what you want. And those are, number 1, location. Pick your location specifically. Number 2, your property type. Is it single family, small multi, large multi, townhouse, condo, mobile home park, what? Number 3, condition. Fixer upper, complete gut down to the studs, demolish, just a turnkey. Like, what do you want? Lipstick on a pig. Like, what do you want? Yeah. And then, so we got location, property type, condition, price range. What price range can you afford to buy in? And then the last one, profitability. What makes it a good deal? Like, do you need $100 a door? Or do you need $300 a door? Like, what would make it? Or do you want 10% return on your money, or a 15% return? And I know some people are thinking, oh, that sounds overwhelming. It is a little bit. But just make that your goal for this month. Is like, I'm going to try to nail down those 5 things. I'm committed. I know what I want to do. And now I've got my 5 criteria points, because then you're going to be like a hunter, like with the right gun, going after the right animal in the right place. And it's going to dramatically increase your chance of getting things, because you have to be good. You can't invest in real estate mediocre anymore. That doesn't work like it did back in 2012. In 2012, you just buy whatever, and it was probably fine. Today, you got to beat Leka, and you got to beat Alex, and you got to beat me. And in order to do that, you got to be good. And so to be good, you have to get small. You have to be focused in particular. Like, for example, like, I don't touch mobile home parks with septic. I just don't want it. But guess what? If you were trying to compete against me on like what my criteria is, you're probably going to lose, because I'm really good at my criteria. So if your criteria, though, was septic tanks and everything else is the same, now you don't have to beat me, because I am not interested in that. You can become an expert, the best person in your market at that unique thing. And that's where the crystal clear criteria comes into. And then 4th, analyze 100 deals. It sounds overwhelming, but do 3 a day for the next month and you'll be done. Analyze 100 deals. And after that, You'll feel so confident, so fired up. You'll have so much knowledge and experience. You'll have answers to all those questions like, what are taxes and all that stuff, because you figure it out in the process. And from then on, it's just work your process. So that was probably way more info than you needed, but that's the advice I give the newbies.
That is blowing my mind. Like, if you guys didn't take notes, go back and watch this and watch it on repeat, because there's so much great information there. And after that, if you say, I still don't know what to do, then you're just not trying hard enough.
Yeah, that's when people are like, I'm stuck, I can't find any real estate deals, whatever. Like, the first thing I typically say is like, have you analyzed 100 deals? Like, analyze 100 deals. And it's so much easier after that point, because you just get it. Well, no matter what niche, you're like, I want to go into apartments. Great. Analyze 100 apartments. You don't have to buy them. Just go get them from realtor.com or LoopNet or whatever. You have to get your reps in. I don't know why, like, people, like, they understand that with fitness. They understand it with sports. Like, I'm not gonna be good at baseball the first time I go and swing a bat. So I got to go to batting practice and hit 100 balls every day for a month before I feel comfortable to go into a, church league softball. Like, it takes reps.
It does. And, this is one career choice that you absolutely get what you put in. And nobody's hand-holding. Nobody's saying, this is a roadmap. This is what you got to follow, right? Which is why Bigger Pockets, which is why Brandon's teachings, or, so many books out there. That is really your roadmap. That's a good advice. But if you're not following it and you're not actually taking massive action, it's not going to lead to anything. On that note, I want to take a little break, and I want to bring up an audience member to ask a question.
Cool.
And this is a special person. And if you don't follow him, I want you to go follow him.
All right, I'll do it right now.
I want to bring up Beardy Yona for the Battle of the Beards. And Yona has a question for Brandon.
I'm scared.
What's going on, Brandon? Great to see you.
You too. Where are you? I hear you. I don't see you. Is that because you have no video on?
No, it just it could be because there's so many people, and when there's
hold on. Yeah. There you are. I got you. Yeah, you win. You definitely win for beard. On bottom and on top. That's great. Look at that. That's great.
All over the place. Yeah. I've been growing it for a lot longer than you, but obviously a really, really important question. And I love I love everything you're doing. Oh wow, you pinned me. Look at that. That's a new feature.
Yeah, fancy.
Oh, so cool. Thank you, Leka. I'm pinned.
That's my team, so thank you, team.
Go team.
All right. Yeah, no, it's a new feature. I didn't know that. I'll definitely do that next time. No, I really want to ask you. A lot of people ask this question, and I'm sure you've gotten a lot before, but to this audience here, why do you grow the beard? Like, what made you grow the beard? That's really what everyone wants to know.
I actually have a good story behind this. So I am very awkward, and I mean that, like, and I'm very awkward and average. In other words, I'm just like your normal, typical white dude, right? But back in the day, I was like thinking, I wanted to get a TV show maybe someday. That'd be fun. But I just look like every other average, awkward white dude. And so then I'm watching this TV show called Fast and Loud. And there's this guy with this big old beard. And I'm like, he has a TV show. And he's like an average looking white dude. But he doesn't look like an average looking white dude. He looks unique. And I was like, oh, so TV, you have to be something that's unique. You got to stand out somehow. If you're not blessed with looking like Tom Cruise or something. So I was like, I'm going to grow a beard so I can get a TV show. That was the original intent, like 6 years ago. And then I decided I didn't want a TV show. That sounds horrible. But what it led me to believe is the importance of a brand, like of having a brand, of being unique, of not being just vanilla, of standing out, because that's going to affect everything in life. Like, that's going to affect how you can raise money, how you can attract people, how you can, build relationships. Like, people, they need to have something they can grasp and like, oh yeah, Yona's the guy with the beard, right? Like, or whatever. So that was my way of continuing the brand. Hence the whole beardy Brandon, like, I kind of leaned into that. Like, okay, let's give somebody something to grasp, and it's totally worked. So brand building is actually a big passion of mine, and like something I talk about occasionally when people ask me, just because I think it's so powerful. Like, I've raised $40 million in the past year and a half, all from Instagram. Like, that's nuts. Like, that's just crazy. Instagram is an app for 13-year-old girls, yet I raised $40 million from it. I just made fun of everyone on this call who's on Instagram. But I am a classic 13-year-old girl too. I'm on there all the time. So yeah, and then the last point of that, the beard, is my wife. Every stage it gets longer, she likes it more and more. So I'm gonna keep doing it as long as she's okay with it. So yeah, don't be vanilla. Find a way to stand out. That's my advice to everyone.
Oh my God, that's like the motto of this virtual meetup. Don't be vanilla. Find a way to stand out.
There you go.
I'm wearing like a super vanilla shirt. Like I should have known.
This is totally unrelated, but speaking of shirts, but a piece of my life, like how my mind works, is I took kind of the Zuckerberg approach, and I found a shirt that I like that is comfortable, and so I bought 13 of them. So I have 13 of these green shirts now that are American Apparel for $11 or $12 on Amazon, and they fit comfy and they feel good, and so I bought 13 of them. So I just wear them every day now. This is the only shirt generally I wear. I have a couple others, but yeah,
that is amazing.
I don't have to worry about what I'm going to wear. I'm just like, I put on a green shirt. It's good.
Yeah. Yona, thank you for that question. That, like, I'm not kidding you. I had 100 people text me and say, please ask Brandon this question. So thank you.
That's hilarious.
And I was
Glad
like,
I can know.
now you know. Now you all know.
Now you know.
I know.
Okay, so going back to taking massive action, you just started Open Door Capital. Not just, it's been a minute, but what is Open Door Capital?
Yeah, Open Door Capital is a real estate firm unlike any you've ever known. I'm just kidding. I'm just reading my vivid vision. Open Door Capital is an investment firm, and all it means is we buy properties and we syndicate it, which means we raise money from accredited investors mostly. We may get into some non-accredited stuff in the near future, but we accredited investors give us money. We go buy property. Primarily, we've been focused on mobile home parks, but we are also expanding into, we had a self-storage deal under contract right now, and we have an apartment complex under contract right now as well, and about to put an offer on another apartment building as well. So that's pretty exciting stuff. So yeah, we just do real estate, and we like to have a good time doing it.
You know, I know Micah's on the call somewhere, but honestly, it is one of the best funds to go invest in as an LP. So if you're interested in it at all, like just learning about the fund or learning about what they do, I don't recommend too many people on this forum, especially, but Brandon and his team are someone that I would invest with. So I would highly recommend going and checking it out. Go look up ODC Fund. Isn't it ODC Fund?
It is ODC Fund.
ODC Fund.
We should buy the domain name ODC Fun as well. And that way we can say we have fun at ODC Fund.
Fund. Exactly right.
We're going to do it. Micah, if you're on this call, write that down.
Write it down.
We're going to buy ODC Fund. That's like our party division. We have parties with ODC Fun.
I love that. And
these really guys have fun. I really actually like that idea. It's like we were going to do some like we have a thing called the Cabana Club. We didn't really talk too publicly about this, but I'll say it like within Cabana Club, it used to be called the Coconut Club, and we upgraded it to the Cabana Club. The Cabana Club is if you've put in like, I think it's like 250,000 or something like that into our fund. Maybe it's a little more now, but it's like a special group. If you put in one of our larger investors, you get invited to a Maui like event, like a hangout in Maui with our team, kind of basically a Maui mastermind. We're going to go do kind of the same thing. You know, a fine dining in a field with caveat outdoor and all that. But I think we should call it instead. I didn't know what to call it. It's like a Maui mastermind. Like, what do you call this thing that people are going to come out to? It's going to be called the ODC Fun.
I love it. I love it.
Anyway, yeah, Cabana Club.
Cabana Club.
It's branding, right? It's more branding stuff. It's like things that people can grasp. The Burr is branding. House hacking is branding. Like people need to be able to hold on to things. So I just said it's for everybody, like in your marketing, in your real estate business, how can you take what you do and clarify it into an acronym or a phrase or a thing that you do? So for example, I'll give you one more example. Open Door Capital, we don't just raise money. We have a cash growth fund. Well, what's a cash growth fund? Well, cash growth, one word, cash growth, means that we invest in real estate that provides cash flow from day one. We don't do spec stuff. We cash flow from day one and has room for forced appreciation long-term, undependent upon the market. The market could drop, but we still will have appreciation because we do infill and we expand in our mobile home parks. So that was a very complicated thing. So we just say we have a cash growth fund. But now when people look at that, they go, oh yeah, They have a cash growth fund. We're the only ones in the world that have a cash growth fund, right? But we invented that term because now it's something people can grasp and hold on to. And they can say like, oh, there's a thing. For another example, unrelated to this, is like my brother wants to be a real estate agent. And he asked me the question, well, how do I stand out? I've never done a deal. How do I get my first couple of clients? How do I get anybody to want to work with me as an agent when there's people with tons of experience? I was like, well, like, what can you brand yourself as that's different? I said, how about like, why don't you have a system or a guarantee? Call it like the $100 guarantee, branded $100 guarantee. And it says, if I don't call you back in 30 minutes, day or night, 24/7, I'm going to pay you $100 no matter what. If I don't call you back in 30 minutes or less, I'm going to give you $100 out of my pocket every single time I don't call you back in 30 minutes. I was like, no other agent's doing that. No other agent has the $100 guarantee. And now it's a thing that people can grasp and remember, and then it sets you apart. They don't think about your lack of experience. They think that guy's going to get back to me 24/7 if I needed it. And he's like, well, what if they call in the middle of the night? You answer your phone in the middle of the night. Like that's what your job is right now, because you don't have anything else going for you in terms of like, you don't have experience in being an agent. So you have one thing, and that is you are available. And make that your thing, brand it, and then market it. So there you go.
Brand it and commit to it.
Yes.
That's the only way.
That's your thing.
That's your thing. I love that. If you guys, well, I've hung out with Brandon quite a bit, and I can tell you this. He is constantly coming up. Like, he doesn't have any of this stuff written down. He is constantly coming up with genius ideas.
Well, I just say the same things over and over. It's easy.
It's amazing. And then he like terms these, like he has these like terms. One of them that he like just randomly threw out there when we were in Maui was be authentically intentional.
Yeah.
And I was just like, whoa, that is amazing, right? Like just be intentional, but be authentic about it. And I was just like, wow, like, you know, you think about those things, like for him, it just comes up, but for you, you have to like digest it and analyze it in your brain and think about it. So that's why he's amazing, because he just has this like this brain that he's constantly coming up with these things. For him, it's just like a no big deal. Love it.
Well, thanks. I'm all, here's the secret to doing it. You just think of everything in terms of book titles. like it's like, how could I make this a book title? If anything takes more than like 4 words to say, it means you can simplify it and make it a book title. Right. So like intentional authenticity or authentic intentionality, both like those are book titles, right? Right. Or Burr, book title. And David Green wrote the book, and then House Hacking, and Craig Curlop wrote the book. So yeah, come up with terms that are good book titles. That's what people like for whatever reason.
Speaking of books.
What?
Speaking of books,
okay,
right? What is the one book that everybody needs to get off the call today and go find and read? The one book.
One book everyone needs to read that I've written or that I've not written.
Okay, how about we make it 2 books? One book that you have written and one book that you haven't written.
That's tough, but I mean, I want to say, I'm not going to say it. I'll say it, but it's not going to be my answer. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, everyone should start there. I think that's a good mindset shifting book. Let me think of a good one. I'm going to say this one. It's not very often talked about, but it's a personal development book that is like, you could read 20 personal development books, or you could just read this one. And it includes like all the information you get from the other ones. Each chapter is on a different lesson. It's called The Wealthy Gardener by John Saforic. So The Wealthy Gardener by John Saforic. It's a thick book. It's 400 pages. And like every single chapter is a story, like a fiction story about this gardener and his interactions with life. But everyone teaches you some topic that really could be a standalone book. And so it's like reading 40 books in one. So personal development wise, I always typically will recommend this one because it's all in one, which is really nice. The other one I'd recommend on that, I know you asked for one, but I'm going to give a few here. The Compound Effect from Darren Hardy made a big impact on my life. And it applies so much to real estate investors about just doing the little things. You know, we often use the phrase, and I use it all the time, and you used it earlier, taking massive action. But in reality, like that is very rare. What you really need to do is take consistent action, right? It's like rather than like, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to lift 1,000 pounds. And then you just get hurt and you don't go to the gym again for like a month. But if you just went to the gym and just walked on the treadmill, because you have never been to the gym in a long time, you walked on the treadmill for 10 minutes and left. But the next day you showed up and walked for 11 minutes. And then the next day you walked for 12 minutes. And then the next day you did 1 bench press. And a year later, 5 years later, 10 years later, Like imagine the difference that does. So it's the consistent action that matters more than anything. So that's what the compound effect is very much about. And then books I've written, you should read the new one that nobody here can read yet. It's called The Multifamily Millionaire, written by myself and Brian Murray. So we have a 2-part book coming out. Both books, same time, comes out in July or August, one of the two.
Oh my God, I can't wait for that one.
Yeah, actually, I would love if I could send you an advanced copy and then you can read it. And if you like it, you can give me an endorsement that I can put on like places. So,
oh my God, yes. I would love that.
Remind me later, I need to get your address and I'll get you one.
Okay,
We're
you
printing them
got
right
it.
now. Yeah.
So excited. I could even fly to Maui and just pick it up myself.
Yeah, we'll get you both of them so you can read them.
Done. You got it. Speaking of Maui, Brandon Turner, how did you get to live in Maui? What did that journey look like?
Ooh, how did I get to live in Maui? I sat down with my wife 4 years ago now. And so we moved here 3 years ago. 4 years ago, I sat down with my wife on January 1st. And we do this every January 1st or 2nd, depends on if we're busy on the 1st, like with kids stuff now. But we sit down and we go over our goals for the year. We look at last year's goals, what we worked on. We plan this year. We talk about what we want to do, where we want to go on vacation. We try to plan some of that stuff, what we want to do in the business, in life. And we just sit down for hours and talk about this. We go to the same restaurant every year, pre-Maui. Now we go to the same one in Maui. Anyway, we wrote down within 5 years, said, let's do a 5-year vision. Where would we want to be in 5 years? And we wrote down, we want a house in Maui. A house in Hawaii, where we have an extra unit that family and friends can come and visit us. I wrote that down. And a year, it might have even been that same year. It might have been a year later. We moved to Maui and had a house. We have a house with an extra unit that family and friends is coming out constantly. In fact, one of my best friends is here right now. And we've been hanging out all week. It's been amazing. So the first piece of that was just thinking bigger, thinking what would be possible. And this goes to what I said earlier about the vision, right? Like that was a 5-year goal and we accomplished it in less than in a year, roughly. Because once you identify what you want, the world conspires to give it to you. And again, I don't mean that in a foo-foo way. I just mean like, it just seems to happen. Right. Because I think it's because of the reticular activating system in your mind is like going toward that thing, which I don't want to go into that right now, but it's powerful. Identify what you want, you're going to get it. So that's how the beginning was. So then we decided to go spend a month. The reason we had chose Hawaii is because before that we had spent a month in Hawaii and it was amazing. So then we went and decided to spend 3 months in Hawaii just to see like could we live there? What's life like there? Again, going back to we identified what we wanted. So now we started taking these little things, like little steps. So we went to Hawaii for 3 months on the island of Oahu, looked at some properties, couldn't find anything, couldn't find this, couldn't find that, nothing felt right. Neighborhood, traffic, anything. And I love Oahu, but couldn't find anything. And in my head, I had a vision for what I wanted. And I don't know if I articulated it on paper. I just knew there were certain things like the extra unit and I wanted a view if possible. I didn't imagine the view I got, but I wanted some kind of view, fruit trees, all that. So we couldn't find it in Oahu. And then we decided, okay, well, I guess we're not meant to move to Hawaii. We're going to go move somewhere else. Maybe go to Nashville or something like that. And so that weekend, we made the decision. We're not moving to Hawaii, I guess, because it's just not meant to be, at least not right now. And so that weekend, we came over for just a weekend vacation from Oahu to Maui. And within an hour, my daughter had fallen asleep leaving the airport. We landed at the airport. She fell asleep in the car. And an hour later, we're just driving around while she sleeps. And I see an open house sign. And we followed the sign up to this house. And I walked on the front porch, the lanai, we call it. And I was like, this is it. This is it. And it was almost as if I had lived in the house in a previous life. Now I'm not a believer in previous lives necessarily, but I felt like I had lived here before. Like this is what I was looking for. And again, I just give that a testament to like having that vision of like, what do I want? It felt right. Neighborhood was right. Everything was right. And we didn't look at a single other property. We looked at one like a lot nearby, just so I was like, well, maybe like, could I build in Maui? And like was a no. So we didn't look at any other houses, no other neighborhoods, didn't know anything about Maui, didn't know anything. I just knew like in the depths of my soul, this was the house. So we bought it. We put an offer on, got accepted, got a crazy low down payment, like a 10% down loan on a jumbo mortgage, which seems ridiculous, but they gave it to us. And we moved to Maui. So that was the story.
Wow, that is amazing. And that house that you guys live in is so cool, has the best backyard. and the best pool and view. Like, you didn't go wrong there.
Yeah, it worked out all right. And then we built the sea shed here and all that other stuff. And now we have we got kind of a cool thing going here. And we turned our pickleball court into an outside dinner place that you had dinner with us there. And
so cool. And for those of you that don't know Heather Turner, Brandon's wife, she is even cooler than him. I just have the best time hanging out with her. Like, she just won't come on camera.
She's like the most she does not want to be known. So she hides. And that's her. I like to be, that's why I grew a beard, is to be known. I think, yeah.
That's amazing. Okay, so I was recently being interviewed for a podcast, and the host said, "Hey, you've been on the Bigger Pockets podcast, and I end my podcast with the same question that Brandon ends his podcast with." And so they asked me a question, and I was like taken back to my interview of the Bigger Pockets podcast. And so I was like, okay, why don't I throw Brandon in the hot seat and ask him the same question? So Brandon, to end this session, I want to ask you, what do you think sets apart successful real estate investors from those who give up, fail, or never get started?
I haven't thought about this in a long time.
See how difficult this question is? Like, you just put people on the spot. I'm like, what am I supposed to say to that?
Yeah, it's because there's never one thing, right? But if I had to boil things down, I'll repeat part of what I said earlier, that wildly successful real estate investors, I'm going to give a couple things, but they take consistent action. It's like, it's hard to fail when you just always like move forward a little bit. Like, it's like tortoise and the hare stuff, but when you always just keep moving forward, and every time you get a roadblock, you're just like, okay, I'll try this thing, and then this thing, and then this thing, and you just kind of keep moving forward. You like that you always get somewhere, and you always get to where, and if you have that vision in mind of where you're headed, you're going to likely get there or close by. So I think there's just like when I think of people who I've mentored over the years or talked with, or, people from high school call me up and they want help with the real estate. And I tell them what to do. I'm like, okay, go analyze the 100 deals. And they just don't do it. It's overwhelming. Or go to an open house, go get a real estate agent. They don't do it. But if like every day you just ask yourself, I have another acronym I use called most important next step, or MINS, MINS. If every day you just said, what's the most important next step toward whatever goal you're working toward? Like, all right, well, I want to buy real estate. I've never done anything. So I guess the next step is I probably got to get a real estate agent. Okay, well, what's the most important next step to get a real estate agent? Well, I guess I could go on my Facebook and just say, hey, family and friends, I'm looking for a real estate agent who's awesome in whatever, Maui. Does anybody know anybody? And like that one simple thing took less than 5 seconds to think about. It took less than 1 minute to actually do. And it gets you one step closer. And then ask yourself again, what's my MINS? What's the most important next step? Okay, I got that now. And if you just continually every day did that, you could achieve, like you could put a man on the moon. Like you do anything you wanted to if you always just keep moving forward. It's just that people don't work consistently. It's like reading a John Grisham book, right? If it's like 400 pages, right? If you read one page and then stopped for a month and then read another page and then stopped for 6 months, you'd never get there. If you read 10 pages every morning for 15 minutes, you'd be done in a month or less, right? It's all about consistency and taking little bits of action. But then there's other stuff like, surrounding yourself with people who are where you want to be. I think that helps a lot. I think reading helps a lot. I mean, almost every single person we've interviewed on the podcast is a reader. I mean, I would say 95% of them are avid readers. That's not a coincidence. Like, what is it? Like 80% of Americans don't read a book after high school. Yet 95% of millionaires I know read books consistently and they devour them. That's not a coincidence. Like that's so strong to say that readers are successful. And there's a few answers for you.
Love that. Love that so much. You guys, I'm going to open it up to you, our audience. If you have questions, go put it in the chat, because this is your time to ask Brandon some questions that are burning in your minds, especially after listening to him for an hour. So put that in the chat. We'll take the next 10, 15 minutes or so to answer your questions and then move into breakout rooms. Guess who just joined us? Tarl Yarber.
Ick. If Tarl Yarber, why didn't he just walk down here? He lives like 12 feet from me.
Yeah.
Tarl, you could have just come in here and sat on my lap and we would have had a great conversation, but whatever.
He's still connecting to audio.
Oh, maybe you can't even hear me on that then. Too
You can't
bad.
even hear you. Yeah.
Can't even hear me.
Okay, so Carl has a great question. Do you read or listen to Audible? How do you read faster?
I read. I don't typically listen to Audible because I don't typically have alone time. I'm not driving anywhere. I work here. So I don't, I mean, I'll do Audible when I'm on like a jog. So I should say I do a little Audible, but I would say 90% I'm a physical reader. How do I read faster? I read with a pen, and not like this. Like, I'm sure that works for people and they say speed reading works, but no, I read with a pen. And here's the biggest secret to reading for me is that whenever I'm reading, and I heard this actually, this is a study that actually proved this, but even before I heard the study, I believe this, is I always believe I'm going to be teaching this topic later to my wife, my kids, Bigger Pockets, on a podcast, whatever. When you read thinking you are going to have to teach this later, it triggers a different part of your mind to process the information in a way that internalizes it and makes it yours. It's amazing. So if like before a podcast, like I'll burn through a whole, like the podcast guest, entire book in an hour and a half, but I'll understand it good enough that I could go teach it right then. And so I read a lot, which makes me read faster. I read with a pen, which I do that to underline stuff. I'm constantly underlining stuff and circling things. And I write little notes in the margins, like this is really good or whatever. So there's that. There are some techniques for speed reading that I don't really need to get into, but things like I don't read the beginning of the sentence or the end of the sentence because our peripheral view will do that. So I read like almost the middle of the page and lead the edges, and your brain will fill in the gaps and you'll get the whole thing. But that probably doubles speed right there. So I probably read like 800 words a minute, where the average person reads like 250, just because like these simple techniques within 5 minutes of Google searching, you'll learn what those techniques are. And the other thing is this, it's not even about speed reading though. It goes back to consistency. If every single day you read for 10 minutes, you're going to burn through 30 books in a year or whatever the number is. It's crazy. But people, when they say they don't read fast, it usually means they just don't take time to read, period. Which I've got 2 kids and I've got 6 businesses or 7 businesses right now. Like it's hard to find time to read, but if a few minutes here and there. I actually have stacks of books out of my house. I'm always in the middle of 20 or 30 books at any time. People think I'm crazy for that, but like I'm just always in the middle of about 30 books, and they're just around my house. And if I'm just sitting there waiting for like whatever, like my coffee to brew, I'll grab a book and read like 3 pages of it. It's just sitting right there, and then I can pick it up. And yeah, so that's my reading life.
That is amazing. So many knowledge bombs right there.
I don't know if those are good advice, but that's what I do. So
okay, so I get this question a lot, and I'm sure you do as well. What is the best way to start becoming or investing in real estate without any money?
Best way to invest in real estate without any money is to win the lottery, number 1. Number 2, ask Leka to fund your deal. And number 3, all right, let me talk about creative finance for a minute. There are so many ways to finance real estate without money. I wrote a whole book on it. It's called The Book on Investing in Real Estate with No Money Down. And this is the argument I make in there, that if you have, let's use an analogy of you want to go build a playground set for your kid, but all you have is a hammer. There's very little you can do. But if you had a hammer and a screw and a screw gun and a drill or whatever, now you can do more things. You can build a little better playground. If you had a saw and a this and a that and a forklift and a whatever, now you could build like the Taj Mahal playground, right? In other words, the more tools in your tool belt, the more projects you can take on, the bigger project you can take on. So the same is true for creative finance. So the number 1 tip for creative finance and no money down is to understand what all the tools are. So read some books on creative finance. What is a lease option? What is seller financing? What is wholesaling? What is 203K loans? What are FHA loans? What are how do partnerships work? All that stuff, subject to. And once you understand all that, then you can plug in and use the right tool for the right situation when it comes across your plate. It's not like every situation works for anything. So that's the beginning of creative finance, is to get a broad overview of different things. But to give you one specific answer, partnerships. I love them. So like last year, I did about $250,000 in profit flipping houses here in Maui. It's not a ton for some people. It's a ton for other people, right? The cool thing is I only showed up 3 times to any of the flips that we did. I didn't find the deals. I didn't do anything. I literally did nothing but took pictures and put them on my Instagram. And how did I do that? Because my partner, Greg, found the deal and managed the contractor.
Yeah.
But guess what Greg didn't do? He didn't put any money in. Guess what? I didn't do any work. So we have this perfect we had this perfect partnership, and where I brought the money and he brought the deal and the hustle, and it worked out. Now on other deals, for example, Open Door Capital, I bring the hustle. My team finds these amazing deals and we put them together and we work through the due diligence and we make it happen. And then the investors bring the money for the down payment and we get a bank loan on the rest. So partnerships are so powerful because like you've got something, the fact that you're an hour and 10 minutes into a call like this, you've got something special that majority of the world doesn't have. And that's called hustle. And so use that. That's more important than money all day long. Go find deals, put things together. You'll find people with the money. Leka's got a lot of it. Just ask her.
No, I don't.
I'm going to get everyone to just bugging you. Like,
I know. I'm like, I wish I did. I just buy every building I could get my hands on.
It's under her mattress, just tens of millions of dollars.
Growing them on trees.
Yeah.
Okay, so John has a great question. How do you streamline your lead flow and follow-up process?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's like one of the most important questions. First of all, who, not how. So I don't do it at all. I've got people that do that. But let me explain what we do as a company. We are very, and this applies if you're a first-time investor just trying to get your first deal, or you're trying to buy a $50 million apartment complex. The exact same process applies. You have to have a source or two or three of leads coming in. So where can you get consistent leads? What's that process look like? For us, we have a system, like I was just looking at it this morning. Like my acquisition guy has a list of like 15 or 20 actions that they do every single week that leads to leads coming in. So one of them is like, did I talk to 3 brokers this week? Check. Or no, they actually make it green or red. Did I talk to 3 wholesalers this week? Yes or no, green or red. And they have these lists of things they do to generate leads. So now the leads come in. So LAPS, leads, analysis, pursue, success. So you get leads coming in, automated, hopefully as much as possible, who, not how, as much as possible, but you have to have consistent leads. They go into, we use a tool called Asana to manage most of our life. There's a lot of CRMs out there. We just happen to use Asana because we use it for everything. So it goes in there. And from there, we analyze it, we underwrite it, we find out what number makes sense. Does it meet our crystal clear criteria that we talked about earlier? If it does, we run it through our actual like full underwriting. We find out what number makes sense. We make an offer. We set goals on the number of offers we make. Quarter 1, we had a goal of making 50 offers in the quarter. Quarter 2, we have a goal of making 70 offers in the quarter. And so the great thing about that now is like, and if that sounds overwhelming, just understand like if you're just starting, you could do 4 offers in a quarter. I don't care. We just know that we get about 1 out of every 10 of our offers accepted. So if we made 70 offers in the quarter, that should amount to about 7 deals under contract. We'll probably close about 5 of them. And that should hit us our goal for the year. We just backed into it. So leads, analyze, pursue means go after it, make offers. And we're always trying to find ways to like strengthen our offer. And we set numbers on that. We set numbers on deals analyzed. We set number on leads that come in. And then that done all correctly spits out this little like widget called success. And that we can't control, but we can control everything up to that. So we have tracking and things in place for every piece of that. And again, it's not that complicated. Like anybody can do that. If you're looking for your first deal, you can do the same thing. And if people had told me that when I got started in real estate, that it's just a machine, it's not an emotional game. This is not a hobby. It's not luck. It's literally just a machine you build that's fairly simple compared to most businesses in the world. Like I would be so much further along right now. Like it's just such a simple process that nobody does. It's kind of crazy. And then as soon as we did it, it's like, oh, it works. So there you go. That's my lead.
That's amazing. And I also want to like just, bring your attention to the fact that Brandon doesn't do this right himself. Yeah. He has his team doing it, but then also understand and notice that he knows what it takes to do it. Like say his team left him tomorrow, like he understands what it takes, what's behind it to actually get it done or hire someone else because he knows exactly what it takes. So it's not about blindly delegating, just make sure to also do the work when you first get started.
Yep. Yeah. We did everything ourselves for years.
Right.
Out. But yeah. And that's why everything's documented as well. So if somebody leaves, great. We have everything recorded and documented so that the next person can come in. Or at least that's what we're working towards. We're not perfect on that in any regard, but that's what we're aiming for.
Build a strong foundation.
Yeah. It's amazing. I mean, I'll just reiterate this one last time. Like, it's amazing. Like, if people say they don't have deals, like there's like, I can't find a deal right now. It's so simple to walk backwards and figure out where their problem is. It's like, okay, you don't have any deals right now. Tell me how many offers you made last week. Yeah. One. Okay. Show me your underwriting on all the deals you underwrote last week or analyzed.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's 2. I'm like, oh, okay. Show me the leads that came in. Show me your inbox. Show me your CRM. My what? So it's so like you can walk back very specifically and find out where your problems are in your funnel and then just fix your funnel. And then all of a sudden you close deals. It's so simple but nobody does it. It's like diet and exercise. If you ate 1,500 calories a day and you went and ran 30 minutes every morning, you'll lose weight. It's a machine.
It's a machine.
Machine.
Okay. Next question. What is the minimum investment to participate in Open Door Capital?
$100,000, I think, right now.
Yeah, I know. It is $100,000.
Yeah, $100,000. Yeah, we used to be 50. We just upped it to 100. We may even go higher at some point. I mean, I love working with bigger pockets people and investors, and we're going to continue for a while. But there is something like on the horizon. We want to buy $1 billion of real estate. The new Vivid Vision is $1 billion in real estate. Which we'll do. I'm not even remotely concerned about it.
Yeah.
To do that though, I got to raise about $300 or $400 million. If we're raising $300 or $400 million over the next few years on $50,000 chunks, that's a lot of investors, and it's a lot of every one of those is a conversation, multiple conversations. So at some point, we are going to need to try to find those like how do you get the $3 million people and the $2 million? And honestly, I don't know. That scares me. Like, that's the next level of my investing life is like, how do I talk with the family offices and the really, really wealthy people? I don't know, but I got to figure that one out next.
Yeah, I have no doubt that you will. Love it. Question. Do you prefer getting tapped out with an armbar or an Ezekiel choke?
Oh, geez. Depends on if Tarl's doing it. I would prefer the armbar, because Tarl doesn't let up on the Ezekiel choke. He'll just keep grinding. For those who don't know, Ezekiel choke, imagine you choke like this, and then somebody's arm comes in right there and just grinds in there into your jugular until you can't even tap out because you're in so much pain. You're just like, ah, and you're crying and it hurts. And then that's the Ezekiel choke. It's fun.
And if you guys are really nice to me, I'll share a video. I have that on camera. Like, I have these two going at it on video. Yeah.
Terrible video. You don't want to watch that one.
Okay. Tabitha says, I have one rental and use most of my capital doing conventional 20% down loan. I do have a small HELOC on my primary. I really want to buy another property, but not sure how to fund it. Suggestions. I was thinking of doing a BRRRR, but starting with mortgage and ending refinancing with mortgage. Is that a stupid thing to do?
Will you do me a favor and read that one more time? I want to get all the details here.
Yeah. So I have one rental.
Yeah.
And use my capital doing 20% conventional down loan.
Okay.
I do have a small HELOC on my primary. Okay. I really want to buy another property, but not sure how to fund it. Suggestions. I was thinking doing a BRRRR, but starting with mortgage and ending with refinancing with mortgage. Refinance mortgage. Is that a stupid thing to do?
Yeah, the second deal. I mean, this is actually a really good question because most people can buy the first deal. It's the second deal is so hard because you don't have the financing that you had in the first usually. And the second deal, you don't have the experience and knowledge yet to be able to just go raise the money easily like you might later on in your life. So a couple of thoughts. So you have the first rental. If you have equity in there, of course, you could try to pull that. And like you said, you got some maybe, but like a line of credit. Honestly, what I would probably do, because the first deal, the first two deals, the first three deals just don't matter. And let's just I love saying this because I wish somebody would have told me this early on. It's they don't matter. They're not, when you're worth $1 million or $3 million and you're bringing in $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month in passive income, are you going to care that first deal was $100 a month in cash flow or $200 a month? It just doesn't matter, right? It's fairly irrelevant to your career. However, it's vitally important because if you don't get through it, you're never going to get to the later stuff, the bigger stuff, the more simple stuff. So for that regard, for that reason, I would probably partner if you can find somebody who's got the down payment and you do the rest. Even if it was a point, you could probably even find potentially a partner to BRRRR, find a partner who can bring the down payment on a hard money, do a fixer upper, because that's really good way to find deals today. So hard money with a partner bringing in the down payment and the repair costs, and then burr it, and then give the partner their money back, and then maybe do it again. And the thing is, like, you could do that with no money down, and you could burr it, which means you get the money back. So the beauty of that is just do twice as many deals. Yeah, you only get half the profit or half the cash flow, but you can do so many times more deals. And right now, it's far more important to get reps in than it is to try to get a good deal or try to keep all the profit yourself. So yeah, if I were in that, that's probably a pretty good way to go about it. I mean, there's a lot of ways you could do it yourself, but I love the scalability and get your reps in of doing partners.
Yeah. And you guys, I love active income. And because of that, I am still constantly doing single family flips. And the way I fund those is by just partnering with my general contractor that brings in the bridge financing. And so like Brandon said, I go to my project like 3-4 times maybe, and it's like perfectly done because he's vested in the deal too.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've never found a good contractor enough that I would do that with, and I'm very jealous that you have them.
It's because I've been through about 8 contractors.
That's what it is.
7 of them not so great, and then you finally find the one diamond in the rough, and you just hold on to them like dear life.
I wish I would have known that early on in my career, that the contractor matters so much. I never put effort into it. Like, it was usually like, okay, we just closed on a flip. Who are we going to call? Grab the yellow pages. Like, it was always so random. And had I been intentional, like from the beginning, about finding and building a relationship with an amazing contractor and developing a partnership that would work over time, like, it's like that quote, if I had 6 hours to chop down a tree, I'd spend the first 4 sharpening my axe. Building contractor relationships for a flipper is the axe sharpening. So I would have done a lot more of that. So
yeah,
you're a genius.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. Only way you can succeed with single family fix and flip.
Yeah, you gotta have
good contractors. So this is a really good question. What is the mindset, mental weakness, if any, you struggle with the most? And what do you do to address it?
That's a great question. One thing I struggle a lot with is never being content. Like, it's never good enough, no matter what level of like freedom or whatever. So in other words, I'm in this constant battle of every time I do anything that's not family, I'm like, oh, I really should be with my family right now. And I'm down to like, 4 hours a week. Oh, I wish I could get 2 hours a week. So I struggle with being content and saying, yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Like, this is all right. Because when I'm home, I'm like, oh, I want to go and do some work. Like, I love being with my kids, but I'm like, I love work. I want to go knock down some, lions. I want to go kill some lions today. And so anyway, that was probably the biggest thing I struggle with is, and just recognizing it is important, I think. And I have a performance coach. I meet with him every other week, and we talk actually a lot about that, because I'm always like frustrated at some problem. And then like, he'll remind me, he's like, you do realize you're like doing like, that's not a problem. You're making it a problem because whatever reason. So yeah, that's probably the biggest mental hurdle thing I have right now is just being content.
Yeah, I can see that, Brandon.
Yeah.
I love this question from Annie Johnson. We'll just take a couple more because then we'll go into breakout rooms and network with the cool people on here. And let poor Brandon go because
I'm feeling horrible of not being with my kids. No, my family's gone right now. They're at doctor appointments. I'm good.
Yay. Okay, so we have him for the next 4 hours.
But too bad I missed my daughter's doctor appointment because of this.
Oh my God.
Just kidding. It's okay. It's okay.
And okay, here's another funny story. Brandon's on here because he lost a bet to me. And the stakes were that he come on my virtual meetup and hang out with all of us. So you better thank me.
Well, I was going to do it anyway at some point, but you were like, right. What were we even betting on? I was so confident that I was right. Like,
I know.
I don't want to sound arrogant here, but I'm usually right. Like when I'm like sure about something, I'm almost always right. Like, I don't lose a lot of arguments to my wife in terms of like that kind of thing, where it's like we remember something differently. I'm always right. You killed whatever it was. I was totally wrong.
He was 100% sure that he followed me on Instagram.
That's what it was. I was 100% sure I followed you on Instagram.
Yeah. And that morning I had actually looked at his Instagram and I was so like sad and upset that he didn't follow me. And so I knew for a fact that he didn't follow me. And so I brought it up and he was like, oh no, I 100% follow you. And I was like, okay, let's take a bet. And if you lose, you're going to speak at my next meetup. And he went on his Instagram and he looked at my profile and it said, follow back. And
Here's the thing.
Yes.
I think you are devious enough that you contacted my team, like Matt probably, or Drew or Bell. And you were like, hey, here's the deal. I need you to unfollow me on Brandon's account. And then I'm going to challenge him on this. And I'm going to make a bet. And I'm going to get him to lose that bet. So he comes on my talk. So I think that's what actually happened here. In fact,
what? That is actually a brilliant idea. And I'm actually going to use it to my advantage in the future.
Right.
Maybe in the next month or two again.
Yeah. It's very Game of Thronesy. It's like very like Cersei Lannister style. I like it. I like the show.
I do. I was channeling my inner Cersei.
Yep. There you go.
Okay. So one more question. Annie Johnson, this is a great question. What is the most unfun thing in real estate investing?
Most unfun?
Unfun.
It's when you have a team of people, like a team of staff. And for those of my team that's on this call right here, I don't mean anything negative by this, but just, it's not like a secret either. It's when you have personnel issues, like I don't make enough, or I'm working too much, or I don't like the way that person smelled today at the office. Like we don't have an office. So I don't have to deal with that one, but it's when you have a team, my biggest desire in work is to make sure my team's happy and like fulfilled and having a good time. And when they're not, and it doesn't happen that often, but when they're not having that's just, it's so draining. It's so heavy. My performance coach is always, he uses this phrase, light and heavy. There are things that feel light to you and there's things that feel heavy. It's not hard or easy, right? Like buying a mobile home park feels incredibly light to me. It's a lot of work, but it feels light. But talking about insurance, like health insurance with my team and trying to figure out the best health insurance policy, that sounds so heavy. It's so heavy, right? So that's when I think of what's the worst part, the most unfun, it's things that feel heavy, and personnel issues are that. Thankfully, I got a bunch of lion killers, so we don't really have issues very often, but yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is one last question that I know there's lots of great questions here, but we'll ask this one last question before we head into breakout rooms. And this is from Doug Peters. Doug is just like one of my favorite attendees because he's always so engaging and he's so encouraging. And these are the people that I want to bring on amazing speakers for. And this is who I love to see at my meetups. And so Doug, thank you. And this is for you. Brandon, when do you plan to retire, or will you?
That's a good question. No, people who retire die. That's a scientific fact that you can predict somebody's death based on when they retire. It's like 7 years, something like that. It's like a thing. Like people who retire at 65 die at like 72. People who retire at 72 die at like 79. It's like there's a very strong correlation to retirement and death. So no, retirement is not an option for me, my wife, or my kids, because I don't want them to die. That said, it's like that whole quote of like, if you love what you do, you don't have to work a day in your life. Right. So I will be active in something. Now, at some point, I may step away from real estate, put all my money into some gigantic like fund, live on millions of years of passive income from all my years of investing, and then go start another work that's like a charity, right? Or giving back or playing music or whatever. But you have to be active or else you die. So don't retire ever or you'll die. That's my advice.
Doug, don't ever retire.
Don't ever retire. You'll die.
Yeah, just keep doing more things that you like to do. And exactly. Then you don't ever want to retire. Brandon, before we let you go, I know your birthday's coming up. I know your team wants to go to paintball with you.
We are not going to paintball my birthday. There is zero. I'll explain why. There's a thing called the birthday run.
Yes, that's exactly what you need to promise to do over here. Because your team wants me to have you promise that you have to do this.
Here's the birthday run. The birthday run is your entire party of people go up in all like the paintball like structures, fully loaded with their paintballs, and you take off your shirt and you have to run from one side of the course to the other with nothing. You just get pelted. So I watched some kids do it, these little 13-year-old boys, and like they're just covered head to toe with welts and bruises afterwards. We are not doing paintball. We are going to go find a nice restaurant and we're going to go and enjoy it. But anyway.
Sorry, Micah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Micah.
Terrible idea. We will go play paintball though soon. That's fun. Team building.
I might just have to make you lose another bet with me.
Yeah, we're going to go on Micah's birthday. That's what we're going to do.
Brandon, it has been such a pleasure. I was just so excited to get to hang with you again. So this has been amazing. I can just continue to sit here and talk to you, and I'm sure everybody can just sit here and listen to you. But thank you for joining us. I'd love for you to leave us with one amazing thought, if you can.
The amazing thought is you should drink Beardy Brew coffee. Come into a store near you soon. That's a true story. But no, that's not the amazing thought. Man, I got to come up with an amazing thought. Hold on. All right. The amazing thought is get a massage. This is true. This is my ending thought for the day. Get a massage every single week. If you are an entrepreneur of some kind, if you're a real estate investor of some kind, if you have the ability to generate unlimited income as entrepreneurs do, business owners do, every single week, schedule a 90-minute massage at your house or wherever you want to go, but you'll do it if it's at your house. Here's why. Because we as entrepreneurs and business owners the most valuable thing we can do is to sit in a dark room and think, or sit on a beach or in a wooded area and think. Just think with a pen and paper or just with nothing, just think. That is the most valuable time you can have. That's when all the good ideas come up. That's when all the problems get sorted in your unconscious and your conscious, and they give you a plan moving forward. I do not do that naturally. I just don't I'll put on my schedule, go to the beach or go to the coffee shop and sit there and think. And then I will not do it. And for years, I never did it, even though I knew I needed to. And the few moments that I did, it would I would make these huge changes in my life and business. So then I finally I found the massage therapist from one of the fancy hotels here. And she does house calls. So my wife and I, every single week, she comes to our house and we get a massage. And that time is the most valuable 90 minutes of my entire week. I will make millions and millions and millions of dollars in my life because of those massages, because they are the only time of my week where I sit down and have nothing to do but think. So it's not even about the massage. It's irrelevant. It's the fact that I will do it because she's at my house and I have no other option. It's there. But if I obligate myself to other people to force myself to do things because I can't be trusted with my own self. So the final tip is get a massage every week, 90 minutes. It'll cost you $500 a month and you'll make millions. There you go.
Oh my God. Okay. That was one of the questions that was on my list that I didn't get to. So thank you for bringing that up proactively. And what's cool is I have been getting a massage every week since 2014.
Really?
And no kidding, that is the best time of the week for me. And you're right. The most genius ideas come to me. So that's amazing that you do the same. And that's a great note to leave us on, because
there you go.
Who doesn't want a massage?
Who doesn't want a massage?
Get a massage.
Yep. Even if you don't care about a massage, I don't care. Get one anyway.
Get one anyway. Yeah. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. This has been fun.